As Damien outlined there, the talk presentation title for this whole weekend is Values, Behaviours and Culture, the Key to Sustaining Success. And very often people, I think, sometimes wonder about conferences whether anyone puts too much thought into those type of things. But the reality is that we actually do put a good bit of thought into what the team might be and what it looks like. We have an awful lot of people talking about values at the moment. Not just in coaching or in sport, across the whole of society we talk about values and what they might bring to us. We also have an awful lot of people who talk about culture. And they talk about, well, the culture of my club, or the culture of the organization, or the culture of the group, or the culture of our school, or the culture of whatever the entity seems to be. And sometimes, as part of this job, some of the good things are you get to talk to coaches. And sometimes the phone rings, and it's just a coach on the phone who says, I want to try and change the culture of our club. And they're not really, I'm not sure really what they might mean, and sometimes they're not sure what they might mean. But we seem to think that maybe this thing, culture, might be important. And equally then, people start talking about maybe what their club means, and what it means to be a hurler or a footballer from Club X or Club Y. And I think we naturally experience that as well when we're playing our games. We know that when we're going to play a game, what it's going to be like. We have an idea what the opposition team is going to be like. Just looking down here in front of me, I see Sean Silk, and anyone who's old enough to remember Sean Silk playing, if you were being marked by Sean Silk, you knew you were in for a tough time. Physically as much as anything else, Sean. So what we tried to do with regards to the team for this weekend is try to bring a bit of understanding to this whole area of values and culture. So what we're saying is that people can and do have values. There are things that we think are important, and that's okay. But values need to be lived. And values that are not lived are sort of hypocritical. So every organization these days has various strategies and strategic documents, and they'll open up and the first thing they'll say was, these are our values. These are the values of our organization. And to my mind, those things are important. But the reason that they're important is they hold us to account. So whatever you say your values are, that's perfectly fine for you as a coach. I'm not going to try and change what you tell me your values are. That's your business. That's you as a coach and what you bring to the whole agenda and what makes you special as a coach, and that's fine. But our values have to be lived. Otherwise, like I said, we're a little bit hypocritical. And lived values, we live our values through our behaviours. And maybe just a very simple thing to say is that if we consistently repeat those type of behaviours, eventually that becomes our culture and what we are about. And that's what we're trying to get at as regards this theme for this weekend. So the Friday evening session is generally a good opportunity for us to give those clubs, those schools, those counties that are living their values, that are trying their best to live their values, to give their players, their coaches, their officials, administrators, referees, and so on, to give them all the experience that we believe people should have in this organization. So later on, we'll have people who will be talking about the 5-star centres at primary school level and trying to give young children a great introduction to our games and trying to live the values of those things. Equally, we'll have people who will speak about the super games, and we'll have guys from Connacht, from Leitrim, from Louth, who will show us real examples of how they have lived this stuff, how they have brought this to life, and how they have changed the experience for our players across those various different places. We'll also have some other examples, maybe that are not, I don't want people to think that this is some sort of a propaganda exercise. So we'll have other examples of people who are doing things, maybe not exactly as some of the guys in Louth and Longford are going to do, but that's okay. They're showing how it can be done somewhere else in a different way, but equally achieving the same thing. So for example, Orla Farmer is going to show later on from the work that she's been doing over the last number of years, specifically in girls football, but not only in girls football. Jim Ryan in St. Peter's in Wexford will give us an insight into what's going on down there and how they've tried to bring their values to life for their students. And tomorrow we're going to have a range of speakers from a range of different backgrounds who are going to try and give a little bit of an insight into their own thoughts on this theme. What's great about this conference, to my mind, lots of times, is that we have lots of different speakers from lots of different backgrounds. And very often, they've come to the same thoughts or the same conclusions in their own ways because that's their experience and how they've managed to understand what we're trying to achieve and what all of us as coaches and organisers are trying to achieve. So over the course of tomorrow, we'll have a further opportunity to see various different speakers, like I said, from various different backgrounds. But tonight allows us an opportunity to do something slightly different, to be that bit more conversational in our discussions. So we're going to have all of these people here give us practical, real examples of the work that they have done. And in many, many ways, these guys are only a snapshot of what actually is happening. And I'm sure some of you will be down here and saying, do you know something, we do something similar. We don't maybe call it something like that, but we do something similar in our place or in our school or in our club. And that's perfectly okay and that's perfectly brilliant. But what I wanted to just try and do was try and give a little introduction to that team, where it is we're coming from with it, and what we believe can be achieved. So hopefully what you might get from this weekend is that things like values can be something real and tangible, not some thought thing that might be up in the sky. Equally, culture is something that we can work with, that we can try and change, because culture can only be changed by us and our behaviours on a consistent and a regular basis. So that's all I wanted to try and talk about this evening. Damien is going to come back up now and MC the rest of the session. I'd appreciate maybe in time if some people wanted to even note down their own thoughts on this, the topic, the theme, any of the presentations or any of the sessions that you see, and get them back and send them on to us. It would be really, really valuable and really, really helpful for all of us. So thanks very much for your attention, and we'll continue on.